It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Behind the Human. I'm your host, Mark Champagne, and it's my job to unpack the stories and mental fitness practices of people living at the top of their game, personally and professionally. And today, we just have a beautiful, bright light of a guest, Tonya, on the show. She's a holistic nutritionist, yogi, entrepreneur, and educator based in California. She is the founder and CEO of Rainbow, a sustainable medicinal mushroom company established in 2018, which offers supplements and functional foods aimed at optimizing health and healing. Tonya's educational background includes a Bachelor of Science in Nutrition and Nutraceutical Sciences, certification as a nutritional practitioner, and also completed a Master's of Science in Mind-Body Medicine. Welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
A lot of education.
I am so... Learning is it's my zone of genius. Learning is my zone of genius because that's where I get all of my inspiration.
Ooh.
So I love learning. I will be a forever student.
It's taking everything inside me from asking a bunch of follow-up questions on that. So I'm gonna hold on that because I want to start the show in the same way that I always do, and that's to actually avoid all of the bio pieces that I just mentioned and start with the question of who are you?
Oh, I love that. I love that question. The evolving art project of our lives. Who am I being is such a good question. I mean, I identify as an earthling and a human, and sometimes as like a divine instrument, as somebody who loves to be in the forest, somebody who loves to share and be of service in the world, and a student of life, curious, open, receptive being that is here to fully experience all of the intricacies of being a human and sharing that process with others, because I love to do that as well.
Where do you think you got that makeup from, essentially? Like, were you surrounded by those values or those characteristics growing up, or did that come later on? Like, where does that come from?
It's also such a good question. I I was surrounded by a lot of love growing up, and
Mm.
I think that as a foundation for anybody can really allow the natural personality traits to evolve. I would say the most foundational kind of element of who I have always been has been somebody who is like exceptionally curious. I think that is innate in me. And that has guided a lot of open-mindedness because there's just this incessant kind of thirst to experience life. My mom told me that when she literally gave me birth, like I came out with my eyes open and was like looking right into her eyes.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and she was like, "Oh, like you just really wanted to be here." Um,
Yeah.
so I think there has been something within me that has really um been that, like, just really big expression of wanting to experience it all, and for whatever reason, it hasn't been lost on me. I think maybe it was lost on me for a good chunk of time when I was a teenager and going through all that angst, but it hasn't been lost on me that that it's this little blip in time that we get to be here, and there's always been this desire to really feel that and
Mm,
live at the edges of that experience where I can, like, really soak it in.
that's so beautiful. Oh, so tell us a little just before we really jump into some of the topics that I'd love to cover with you, but like you just fill in some of the gaps around a bit of your backstory and I guess how you got to what you're working on in
Mhm.
present day.
Totally. I always I mean, it's kind of funny, I think just the way my brain works, which is like this tapestry of seeing the whole picture. It's hard to be like, "This rainbow started here," or "I
Yeah.
started here," because it's just been it at least the way I storytell in my mind, whether there is, like, the factual truth to that, but it's how it makes sense for me. But it has really been, so many breadcrumb moments, and I have felt really connected to this, um, really deep purpose within me that has wanted to help people. And I said that to my parents as a little girl as well, that I was here to help others. And I have always felt really connected to that. Anytime I've strayed from it, something has felt off and I've come back to that center
Mm,
point. But yeah, and a lot of it also really stemmed from my own health journey. And that was why I even kind of chose to study nutrition as a, 17-year-old, was because I noticed that I couldn't eat the same foods as a lot of people. I would have really strong reactions. There was a sensitivity to me that was kind of annoying to me at that age. And I didn't really have an understanding for it. There wasn't a wellness industry to educate me, although my family was, healthy and we had vitamins and things like that. My mom was aware of these things. But in terms of finding alternative modalities, it was like, you're
oh
in
yeah.
a dark cave and you're just like, "Oh, like meditation?" Like, before
Yeah.
people were really talking about it. So, I'd say that that curiosity has led me to ask so many questions that people weren't asking around me, or at least they weren't asking it to me, or I wasn't having those
Yeah.
conversations, and that allowed for continuous learning. And as I started to find solutions, I was like an evangelist and wanted to share those with other people so that it might also support their journey. Um, and so that has really been the evolution of how I spent a lot of my 20s, a lot of soul searching, a
Mm,
lot of like moving from the sensation of being in misalignment to searching for what alignment feels like in my body and mind, and
yeah.
then
What
finding it
what
and getting excited.
what was that like though, Tonya, like in the early days? Because there's a lot of people I feel they go through a certain period or chapters of life and then they hit a wall of some sort, like something happens and then all of a sudden you get kind of almost like forced into reflection and seeing where you're misaligned. There's
Mhm.
not as many people that it seems like you're kind of doing that out of the gate. So did it feel like you were like out here and everyone else was going down these other paths and so forth, or did you feel very supported?
No, I mean, I think what got me to that place of feeling out of alignment was like a good chunk of years where I my lifestyle habits were just kind of just like following the herd of like drinking and
Yeah.
partying and just in that forgetfulness and in this loop of so much anxiety, like so much crippling anxiety. And my kind of where I hit the rock of like, "Oh, something needs to change," um, was kind of getting this diagnosis from a doctor, and that really shook me to my core, where I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna change all of these things." And I'd say at that point, when I decided I had to change a lot of things, I had to change friend groups, I had to change who I was dating, I had
Mhm.
to change my career, I had to
Wow.
change what I was doing as a 23-year-old.
Yeah.
And that was like that was intense and really took, I guess, a lot of courage, and I'm so grateful I did it. I remember, like, people being like, "What? Like, why is she sharing this stuff online? Like, what?" what is she doing? Like, we don't see her anymore. And
Yeah.
I just had to sit in so much discomfort for a lot of many years, as I did that kind of soul searching. But I think also once you make the leap, you're met with I was met with anyways, with, some reassurance that I was on the right path, that I did the right thing, and that was fairly quickly after, not to say that it wasn't difficult, but it was just like it was the reassurance I needed to be like, "Okay,
Yeah.
this is I didn't just blow up my life, and this was the right thing."
I think that's a fair. That's a big statement for sure. What were some of those nudges from the universe?
Mm, well, I mean, one of them was a book showing up at my doorstep
Oh,
that really
wow.
changed my life, and still don't know who sent it. Um
Really?
Mhm. Yeah,
What book was this?
the book was The Great Work of Your Life. Phenomenal
Wow.
book. Yeah,
Okay.
phenomenal book. And, uh, and that was pretty yeah, just a very poignant moment.
Yeah.
And I love that book, and I recommend that book to people all the time, especially 20 somethings who are like doing in that soul searching phase. Um, and I mean, it was also gifted to me from with a sense of clarity in some moments.
Yeah.
I think following intuitive hits and that led me to some uncomfortable places. I did a kind of, yeah, I guess a 5-day retreat at Esalen, um, way back. And it was a wild kind of like, what's that, Hoffman, kind of like Hoffman style.
Yeah. The Hoffman
Really
process. Yeah.
exactly, and very uncomfortable all week. You're really processing your like, everything and everybody else's everything in a really dynamic way. And the gift that came from that was, like, an immediate sense of clarity, and for me, I'd say I was really oscillating. I had a lot of self-doubt. I was really having a difficult time making a decision, and so there were also moments like that where stepping into the unknown helped
Mhm.
provide the sense of clarity that I needed at that moment.
That's so nice. I can resonate obviously or appreciate what you're saying. Like they're not always these big moments of reassurance. They're often these little micro situations, right? Obviously, the book that's pretty spectacular. And if whoever sent that book is listening, please let us know. Or maybe don't. Maybe that's the mystery is even more powerful. But then you just get those little senses every now and then of, oh, that's that's
Mhm,
interesting, and
mhm,
you kind of
mhm.
make the decision to follow it or not. And usually when we follow it, then it leads to really beautiful places, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of kind of spaciousness and awareness that I've come to really try to cultivate in my life at this point to leave room for the noticing, because the
Mm,
universe, at least, I believe, is speaking to us in so many ways. And for
yeah.
me, it's that I think a lot of people want that experience of connection and want that experience of magic being alive in their lives. And from my experience, it's in the slowing down, in the doing less, that I can actually experience those moments more frequently.
Yeah. Well, and it's so hard because it's so counterintuitive in the society that we work in or work
Mhm.
work around or what surrounds us, I guess you could say, especially when you're running a business.
Oof. Yeah.
It's right because I don't know for me one of the big ones I did ran through and learned about human design. And that was one of the first eye-opening kind of situations where it's similar to what you mentioned earlier. Like for me, the way that I'm designed, like I can kind of see the bigger picture and take a bunch of complex scenario or a bunch of inputs and be like, oh no, well, like this is the plan.
Yeah.
But then there are other insights around, like there's a lot of like hustle kind of culture in the entrepreneurial space where that never felt aligned. It felt like actually very misalignment. I'm like, well, if I don't do this, I'm not going to grow the business. And
Totally.
right then you get permission when you get more insight into these modalities or these different techniques, and you're like, oh, well, this is reassuring or refreshing, and
Exactly.
like go down your path, right?
Yeah.
Have you
Yeah.
done human design work as well?
Oh, I love human design. What are you?
I'm a projector
Oh,
for one.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm a projector as well. I love projectors.
Yeah.
I am a 2-5.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. I don't know enough about the numbers. Like I know my profile, but I mean, I understand in general the projector side of things. But then that makes sense. Like, so then on our side with our general, like, what do they call it, strategy or profile, like waiting for the invitation and all of that kind of
Mhm.
stuff is challenging in again, like the outside business world. So how have you, I guess, incorporated some of that knowledge to I guess start Rainbow and run the company in a way that is aligned for
Mhm.
you?
Well, it's kind of interesting. There's been so many phases of Rainbow, and really what I come back to is the way I started it because it was just it was just a very specific time. There was a sense of naivety in a
Mm,
wonderful way that I really it was like kind of like being innocent and childlike
yeah,
in a way. But I had a teacher early on as well who said something that I really resonated with, which is kind of what you just said too, which is like is essentially like can you be a lighthouse for the work you want to do so that like
mm,
you're emanating is kind of like I think that's what a teacher is in a lot of ways. And that's something I've resonated with, something I was doing before Rainbow as well. And so the reference wasn't even necessarily lighthouse based, but it was essentially like, can you do you in such a way that
yeah,
it draws everything to you? And that there's such a life force that you bring to your work that's so contagious, that's
yeah.
so magnetic and attractive, and that people want to be a part of that. And and that resonated very much with me because it I felt like I could do that, and I think there was some aspect of maybe, like, energetically, the projector side of things, that drew me to that, and so I had daily practices where I was just really focusing, and I still do this, but especially at the beginning where I was like, I have no money, I
Yeah.
have my savings that I'm pouring into this, but it's not like I'm coming to this with, like, all of this, fundraising or anything,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just doing my abundance meditations, like, making my energy like, clearing the space around my body to be more of a conduit, and meditating a lot and doing certain things, which is like it sounds kinda crazy, but there is some deep part of me that actually does believe and have had the experience that that does work,
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, and so there was
But
a
it's
lot
so
of that,
hard in
but
the
it's
moment,
so
right? Like,
it's harder now, like, in some ways, it's not that I don't meditate, it's just that there's so much to do in 3D,
yeah.
and that is a very real reality of, like, yeah, like, there's a lot of things that gotta be that have gotta get done. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, like, hard in the sense of, especially in those early days as well, where, in you have to put a lot of faith and trust, obviously, in the journey, and, like, you're getting these signs and these nudges and so forth, but then and you're, of course, meditating on, bringing like, clearing that energy out and bringing, operating on a frequency of abundance and so forth. But then there's also the reality of just, like, your point where, like, we have to live and there's bills and there's, like, you're trying to build something. It takes, investment or some sort of capital as well.
Mhm,
And it's like you're in that between space, and that can be really challenging to be in there.
mhm.
Was there anything else in the during like, that helped you in that
Yeah,
moment?
like, and in on the more practical side of things, with people obviously needing to pay rent and things, I I basically got to a point where I was like, "I'm going to just get the cheapest rent possible. I'm going to
Mm.
really lower my expenses." I was willing to move home. I was going to move home, and I had just met Simon, my husband, around that time, and he was kind of like, "Don't move home. Just let's move into this place together with a bunch of our friends."
Oh,
And
wow.
it was gonna be like, like $300 rent, like it was like in North Toronto, pretty
Yeah.
far up. Not like an ideal place for
Okay.
like somebody who'd lived in the city for many, many years. And I bunkered down, and I still took some clients that I was working with at the time, and I made that work. But there was also like a realistic, like, okay, there are some shifts, some sacrifices I'm going to make to moving out of my really nice place in the annex and finding
Yeah.
something that would give me space to really like sink my teeth in for a year to plan the launch and learn how to even have a business like this.
Yeah. Wow. That's the stuff that a lot of people don't, I find, know about or don't talk about, right? Like you hear the stories or obviously the success stories and so forth, but there's usually a lot of setup there. And it sounds like, I mean, you just put yourself in a physical environment to give yourself the best shot, which, also, again, can resonate on the finances side of things. It's hard. Like it's hard to think clearly and make really good decisions when your mind is looping on,
Yeah,
financial things or scarcity mindset, and it's real. Like this is not like make believe stuff. It's real. So if you whatever you can do to get yourself out of that in some capacity, and sometimes take some sacrifice,
totally.
right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
So what happened? What happened next? Like how did Tell us a little bit what rainbow is because, now we see it all over the place, which is even as I was thinking about when we were coming on, it's like, oh, because as you know, I live in Collingwood. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen it here, here, and here. And then I remember like years back, I was telling you about this story where I stayed over at some of the founders of Othership. Um, and I remember we got up and we're making coffee and Harry's like, "Oh, well, how do you feel about adaptogens?" And I was like, I knew nothing about like, I don't sure if you let's try it out. And of course it was rainbow. Like it's just you're everywhere. But before you
Everybody.
weren't everywhere, how did
Yes.
it all start?
Um, I love that so much, and somebody emailed me the other day being like, I cannot run nor hide from 11:11," and it just made me laugh. But we so launched the business officially to the world with the first product, which is 11:11,
Okay.
still our bestseller, and I launched that in May of 2019, and, um
And what is it? Just so
Oh,
people
yes,
know.
and what is it? So Rainbow is a functional medicinal mushroom brand, and our product line right now are dual extract tinctures, which are, by a lot of herbalists and people that understand format and function and efficacy and dose, are extremely bioavailable, very potent way to get the benefits of mushrooms. And I haven't even gone into the story of my love for the forest and really like the rainbow really stemmed from my own healing journey, taking like 8 grams of reishi for 8 weeks
Mm,
back in 2016. That was my
okay.
first experience with the supplement where I was like, whoa, that actually worked. And um,
What
it's
did it
funny
do for
when
you?
it did a handful of things. I think it's a very potent like liver strengthener. And so what I was going through at the time was a lot of hormone dysregulation, which was also leading to a lot of emotional dysregulation. It was a very difficult time in my life emotionally, a lot of stressors. And there was tons of breakouts on my face and just
Mm,
gas bloating, like IBS really in a big flare up. And
yeah.
after was didn't even take the full 8 weeks, but after some point in there, I don't exactly remember how many weeks it took to really kick in for me, but there was like all of my digestive symptoms were gone. There was no
Wow.
gas, no bloating, and I'm like it was, like, disruptive, very, very disruptive to go out, to be in
Sure.
class. I was studying holistic nutrition at the time, and my skin cleared up, and also the subtlety of, like, my mind and the as I really dove into it afterwards, there was this, in traditional Chinese medicine, there's reishi is kind of this mushroom of, longevity and of spiritual potency, and we don't have words to describe those kinds of characteristics that
Yeah.
plants have in Western culture, but in the East they do. And that was also one of the most balancing elements for me was that I felt like I could like sit through class and not cry or like I
Yeah.
was just so much more balanced mentally and I felt way more connected to my spirit, to my to my whole kind of mind, body, spirit system. And even at that point, I wasn't like, oh, I'm starting a mushroom company at all. But it really did create this strong passion and,
Yeah.
belief in their power. And I just started learning more and spent the next couple years like diving into. I had a mentor. I was in 2017. I was kind of playing with wanting to start a business, and I had a mentor who was like, Tonya, every time you talk about mushrooms, you light up and and I was like, "Oh, yeah, I do." Like, I am
Yeah.
obsessed, and I was reading so much, and anyways, the yeah, and I kinda got to a point where I was also calling a lot of mushroom companies in Canada to find out more. I've always been a very big quality person of like, "But how do you grow them? What's your energy?" Like, trying to get a
Yeah.
feel for things, and there wasn't a lot of transparency in supply chains, and I just started getting excited about running a company in a way that I thought would be a beneficial experience to people who would wanna build something in the way that I would want to spend my time building something and have more of a culture that was, still people that work hard and high performing, but
Yeah.
also that there's, a lot of respect and care and love and, just like, we can enjoy our time together doing the things that we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Um, and so,
But it
yeah, we
comes full
have
circle though with your how you answered the first question, the who am I question, like that it's like that curiosity meets, this internal feeling of you're meant to help others. It's all coming together essentially. I mean, I know you probably weren't maybe feeling it in the exact moment, but in retrospect, looking and as the
totally.
outsider, it's like, well,
Yeah.
obviously, of course you did this,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, totally. Yeah, so it's a line of tinctures, and everything is grown in Canada with a lot of care and attention. And so it started in 2019, um, and just shipping from home for quite some time, many months, and then
Yeah.
COVID hit, and it just kind of took off, and we really started to grow from like right from the get go.
Yeah. So where just to give well, 2 questions. One, just to give people perspective on, I guess how you're doing right now with the company, like where I I don't know how you measure it, whether how many stores you're in or share whatever you'd like to share in terms of the reach or where people can get it. But then I think the other big one is, in I guess in an abbreviated way, like, what's the crash course we should all get on functional mushrooms? Because I'm sure there are many people, and myself included, like, I don't know that much about the products other than I know I feel a hell of a lot better when I put some of this stuff in my smoothie.
I love that.
So,
Um, so what was the first question?
yeah, just like where's the company at now? Like,
Yes. Okay.
where
Right.
yeah,
So we are. I mean, I've kind of lost count. I think we're in somewhere around 450 independent stores.
okay,
Whole Foods Canada is a big chain for us in Canada, but we're in
yeah,
a lot of independent stores across Canada and the U.S. and the U.K. And
that's amazing.
So yeah,
Congrats.
and Simon, thank you. And Simon, my husband, has just kind of stepped in actually in the past year, helping in more of a financial role, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it feels so good to have that support. And we're both here kind of focused on Southern California growth at the moment. And I've been really kind of yeah, growing the team and getting us ready to like expand and have the resources to do that. Um, and we're launching 2 new products in about 2 to 3 months, which is really exciting. It's a
mhm,
product I've been working on for too long. I mean, like over 4 years. So that's really, really exciting. And yeah, it's a really exciting moment. I
yeah,
have this amazing team that has amassed is really kind of also the culmination of 2 years of really intentional searching for, yeah, the
it's the right
right
people.
the right people to
Yeah.
get us to where I know we can be. And, um, and so that's really exciting.
What do you think you just based on what you shared about, there's growth and obviously you have the right team and so forth, but also with growth, comes change and usually some discomfort and so forth. So for you
So much.
as the founder, like what do you think you need most for your mind to really thrive in this next chapter?
Such a good question. It's such a good question, because in a lot of ways I have been so stretched
Mm.
in ways I have never been stretched before, and really like in all that discomfort. And um,
How so?
I mean, I don't want to call it busy, but I don't know what other word to
It's
use.
fine. There's no
Like,
judgment on words here.
well, yeah, I mean, totally, but it's so like I'm so busy.
Yeah.
Um, But no, I mean, I think as somebody, and maybe you can relate, as whether it's like being a projector or who knows what, or just being a meditator, and
Yeah.
there is this desire um, for time to slow, and
Yeah.
for the experience of time to be different, so that I can finish a day feeling like I have accomplished things. And so that in and of itself has been a little hack of like, there's no more page long to-do lists, even though they are there. But
Yeah.
there's organization of myself and my mind and my priorities and my energy. And I've been extremely committed to um I guess, the first like 4 years were just like everything all at once. I'm everywhere. I'm wearing every hat.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah, like very, very long days and so much passion and so much, um, yeah, just like it is what it is at that stage where you're just like
Yeah.
wearing all the hats and you kind of have to. And, and then there got to be a different point too where I was like, okay, well, what is this gonna look like when I have a child? Or how do I this isn't really sustainable. So how do I wanna really intentionally craft my day and craft the team and really understand where my gifts are, where my zone of genius is, what I can do to really move this forward in the best way, in the highest way for Rainbow, in a way that really brings my gifts and joy and passion out.
Yeah.
And then there's a gap between where I am and the support I have and where I want to be, and, like, slowly over years, like, closing that gap. Um,
Yeah.
and so I guess, like, yeah, some of the practices are, like, how can I create spaciousness in the sense of, um slowing down to celebrate where we're at, to feel success every single day in the little things I do, to do what makes my heart light up, amidst spreadsheets or,
Yeah.
difficult, like, people management or whatever the things are. So I think it's been, yeah, just this like recalibration of energy and how I spend it. And also what do I say is really important to me? And am I doing those things?
Mm.
Am I being that way? Am I, like, existing as that version of myself? Um, and, bringing a lot of awareness to that.
How do you check in with yourself? Do you have some good practices for that, or is there anything that you'd like to try more of, just so you can, because a lot of what you're sharing is I think having the self awareness and the presence to just be and like actually fully soak up the present moment, but then also notice when, like to your point, like when you're saying things but maybe doing others, it's easy to get onto autopilot,
Mhm.
very easy,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think my big ones are journaling, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of somatic awareness as well of how
Yeah.
something feels in my body. And is my heart racing? Am I having a sensation of anxiety, or am I feeling super energized? So I think there is that moment. There's a lot of checking in of like, how do I feel in my body? And that
Yeah.
for me has also been such a place of trust where I can really feel something and be like, oh, that feels true. Or,
Mhm.
or just I think when you are also at a stage where you're trying to be discerning with your time and what you say yes to, what you say no to, there's also that ability to like feel into your body. But I would say I'm somebody like that talks it out a lot. And
Okay.
I have like a lot of, yeah, I'm writing a lot, or I'm talking it out with Simon or somebody. And I have coaches that I work with as well. I've found that level of support to be super important as well. Taking time off and
Yeah.
trying to like really have some boundaries. Also, big work in progress.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're human
Yeah,
like the rest of us, and living
yeah,
in somewhat in this physical world. I mean, there are other worlds out there as well, but the one we're talking about, at least, it comes with a lot of can come
yeah,
with a lot of pressure, and
yeah,
and I find almost sometimes even more so when you're working in a space like yours, where, and I felt this with and still feel this with a lot of the companies that I run, that like we're legitimately here trying to help. But like, it's the classic airline example, right? You have to put your oxygen mask on first before helping others. And the more that you're tapping into your practices and being true to yourself, the ripple effect of that is exponential in
yeah.
in a beautiful way. But of course, easier said than done.
It is, and I think there's also a lot of, for me anyways, there's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of like,
Yeah.
well, it looks different for that founder, or
Yeah.
it they s like, it's just like, should we be somewhere else? Should we be farther along? So that has been a big piece for me,
Yeah.
to really hone in on, and just take so much trust to do it your way, and to do it in a way that feels good,
Yeah.
and that feels like it can do a bit of both, like move quickly and feel spacious.
Yeah. Well, and this is where I think this is where community I've have also found really helpful. I mean, I was, before we hit record, sharing this event that I had gone to in Toronto, where there were three founders essentially sharing, quote unquote failures or really hard moments in business. And like, you look at these businesses from the outside, and if you use people are on the show are familiar with Othership, because we talk about them a lot, and I use Othership in my work with teams. But a place like that, where they're, it's a hot cold breathwork studio in Toronto, and then now just expanding into New York. And it's like, wow, they must just like be really killing it, which in a way they are, but there's a lot of background things happening that are incredibly crazy and
Yeah.
stressful, and like, be like, oh my God, I would fold under that pressure. And I find what I personally left with from an event like that was, it's just the reminder of we're not alone. Like, we're all going, and what you see on the outside is not always it's never the full picture. And
Eh,
it's just, again, a remind it's not from a place of judgment, but like, okay, yeah, it's not just me that feels, in these
yeah.
moments where like, oh man, how am I going to get through this
Yeah.
kind of thing? It's just, there's a community there, right?
Mhm.
I think gives you a little boost of energy to keep
Totally.
going or reset or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's always that moment too of, like, sharing it from the wisdom, or whatever the saying is, like, sharing it from the wisdom instead of the wound, where
Yeah,
when you're really in it, it's just, like, it's all consuming, and it's painful, and it's like it requires all faculties, and it's scary and all the things, and it's like an emergency situation in
yeah,
ways, and then having some time and foresight, and like we made it through, and like these are all the things I learned from it, is also a beautiful place to get
yeah,
to. But I love my founder chats, like the conversations that I have with others on a Zoom, where it's just like we're both just like sighing, being like, okay, you're going through that too. Like, good to know it's not just me. And
yeah,
it's
yeah.
yeah, it's an incredible journey, and it is a wild ride.
Well said. Very well said. It's my wife shared. I mean, I this was maybe a month ago. I just had a particularly challenging week. It wasn't even a day. It was literally 5 days, and I'm like, oh my God. And again, like, I'm surrounded by a lot of mental fitness practices. This is what I do day in and day out. And it's still like, you get into these loops, and she just shared, and this was what flipped me out of it at the end was, she said, listen, we chose this life, and it comes with, some weeks like this, but then it comes with a lot of really great, greatness on the other side as well. And it's just not labeling. It's essentially
Mhm.
all of these moments, and just kind of being okay, and not And like, we'll adjust if something, goes up or down or whatever it is. We've kind of to what you did when you first started the company. And like, it's possible. Like, you don't want to go back to those places, obviously, but it was all I needed to hear was we can, if we have to make some sort of adjustment financially to
Totally.
support where we're at kind of thing. And of course, like none of that stuff even came
Exactly.
close to fruition. But
Yeah. Yeah.
the mind loops, it's like full on, we're here, it's
Totally.
the end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have moments just the other day where I was like, oh my, like, you're like, what if this happens? And then I'm working with Simon, my husband. I'm like, what if he stopped loving me? And it's just like, like you just let that monkey
Yeah.
mind and you're just like, oh man, like it's so interesting. It is
Yeah.
like being the observer of these wild thoughts and just talking it through and also making it we have those conversations too amongst Simon and I to just be like, yeah, we'd make it work. It's fine. We chose this.
Yeah.
Like, look at
Yeah.
this life we get to live as a result. And there's a lot of excitement,
Yeah.
like there's that part of the journey is really cool. And I think it's sometimes easy to forget that there's like, it's not a mundane choice. You're not signing up for something that's going to be really
Yeah.
similar day by day. And
So
that's
true.
exciting.
So true. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about how, again, going back to Rainbow and the products, and also just the rituals behind them as well, like where we can kind of almost like practice stack in a way of, I mentioned a couple things on the personal side, and Harry on the othership side, like putting in his coffee at that time. And for me, coffee is a pretty it's a ritualistic thing for me. I check in with myself as the coffee's brewing, like smell the
Mhm.
beans and things like that, and just like micro moments to just
Totally.
slow it down a bit. But yeah, like just I guess maybe like what are some of your rituals, or what do you hear from customers and people
Mhm.
within your ecosystem? And like, how do
Mhm.
we use these products?
Totally. Well, I want to touch on rituals for a moment too, because I've always been really intrigued and kind of obsessed. Even before Rainbow, I had a blog and I would interview people about their morning rituals in like 2016 and 17. And I think there's something aspirational
Yeah.
about striving towards creating some space in the morning. And it's like when I think about the power of the mind and those like windows into the subconscious that we have right as we're falling asleep and right in the morning. Those to me are just these two areas that I cultivate and I want to lengthen that time in because there's such richness to
Mm,
how I feel connected, my brainwave states, all these interesting things to me. Um, and yeah, I'd say like that ritual, even though it wasn't necessarily intentional when I started Rainbow, but it was it's really become this powerful kind of force for us and something that we really believe in and encourage, which is creating a morning ritual. And I just came back from Japan and seeing the ritualistic behaviors, whether that's in a tea ceremony or just the care that somebody will put into cleaning their space, the sidewalk around their house, or whatever
yeah.
the case may be. I am very, very passionate and intrigued and interested in that just creating those kinds of rituals. And so when I first created Rainbow and started taking our tinctures, it was a ritual similar to your coffee. I would like really sit with this glass jar filled with spring water and these high quality mushrooms and really think about like how this is going to help me. Can I set an
Mhm.
intention in this moment? Can I sip this? And the phrase on the back of our bottles has always been um, like made with love, consume with reverence. And that reverent attitude is something that I love and I
Yeah.
wish to help others cultivate. And so it's really, yeah, really can be a micro moment, like you mentioned, of just adding this medicine into a cup of water, tea, matcha, coffee, right under your tongue, and just taking that one moment. And even if it's not an hour long morning routine that somebody can have, it's just that like those little micro moments of infusing
Yeah.
like one intention into our day is going to make a difference and continuing to do that day after day. Um,
Yeah. Well, then
yeah,
it leads to, because it starts you start to feel obviously the benefits of that. And almost instantly. And then I find to your point, like you want to extend that, right? So it's not like, hey, get up an hour earlier, like run around the block, cold plunge, do this, meditate, journal, have your uh rainbow infusion in whatever you're drinking or so forth. Like, of course, all of that'll work really well, but it just becomes, it's like too much if you're
Yeah.
not doing
Yeah.
anything, right? So starting small. And I mean, I think we all deserve to just check in and set an intention for the day and see what's up for literally like a couple minutes, right? And then
Exactly.
that extends out. It's yeah, it's
Exactly.
powerful. It's powerful. Out Do you have a hard stop, I should ask you, in
I
5
do not.
minutes?
Let me
Okay.
just double check, but
Okay.
no.
I'll
No,
I'll
I'm
try to
good.
keep us, somewhat on time, but
Okay.
I just wanted to know. What another practice that, it seems like you share with Mr. Tony Robbins is the trampoline bouncing. I saw you wrote up, I think you call it rebounding,
Yes.
and I know he does this, before any keynote or his big events and so
I
forth,
didn't
and,
know that.
all the time, it's always backstage. Yeah,
That is
just to,
so
like
cool, and he's such a large man, like,
I
he
don't that he
it's
is.
amazing.
Yeah, so he jumps on that, I don't know how many times, like, 10, 20 times or something before going on stage and just, like, boom, instantly gets revved up.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So
I
talk about
love
me about your rebounding.
Yeah, so I think it's like many reasons. There's some amazing lymphatic benefits to just jumping and using it from that perspective, and also like these little ways that we can wake our body up and just like infuse myself with some life force energy, deep breaths, feel my heart rate increase. It's like
Yeah,
having a shot of espresso,
yeah,
but it's a little like wonderful pattern interrupt in my day, and
yeah,
it gets like if I'm, I can sometimes bring them outside, and now I can. And it's just like getting my heart rate up, getting me moving. And it feels amazing. And it takes like maybe, 3 minutes.
yeah, I love it. Do you stack that with anything else? What does it look like in your day?
Not not necessarily. I just get on it whenever I can and
Okay,
whenever there's a break. Um, I would love to say I do it specifically before like a big meeting or something like that, but maybe I'll try that. But yeah, just like sometimes I'll go for 20 minutes, listen to a podcast. And that's kind of my form of just also like getting myself moving and
yeah,
act a bit more active. But yeah.
I love it, I love it. What's got you excited about the months to come?
Hmm. Well, I'm hosting a retreat in Greece in
Ooh,
June, and
okay,
we kind of led our first retreat, a dear friend of mine, Rachel, last September, and it sold out super quickly. And it's something that I definitely really look forward to, which is like the ability to um, curate an experience of time that's founded on different principles that allow people to experience that spaciousness that I love to talk about and encourage. And I think those just the ability to like get out of our day to day and start to think about our purpose and our
yeah,
ikigai. And we're practicing kundalini and breath work and hypnosis. And it's just this like confluence of all of these things, and having our mushrooms every morning and sharing circles. And I think that experience for me has been really enriching because it's just allowed an amazing container of people to come together and experience
yeah,
nature and femininity and have a little bit of a break to fill our cups up. And you know, I'm very passionate about transformation and many ways that occurs, and so that's been really exciting. We've been working so hard as a team at Rainbow to get this new product out. Similar timing in about 2 to 3 months, and that's really exciting. I have something else up my sleeve that I'm working on as well. That is,
so much mystery. I love it.
yes, I know actually that's true.
Stay
I'm
tuned.
like, stay tuned. Stay
Yeah.
tuned energy.
Where's the best place to follow and, make sure we don't miss these announcements?
Um, I would say Instagram, so rainbow mushrooms on Instagram.
Okay.
My handle is Tonya Papanikolov, which we'll link because that's a tongue, lots of letters. And yeah, I'd say my newsletter as well would be amazing. There'll be some
Okay.
updates via that.
Exciting, exciting. And
Yeah,
we'll make sure this is out, and I can reshare as well on the socials when all these products drop and whatnot. So it's just like they're options. I don't you know, they're just beautiful options to continue whatever our personal journey is, and especially on the retreat side too. Like again, just like you said, an opportunity to take a bit of a break for you, which extends out then or ripples out to so many other people, and also just shows what's possible when you actually do that. And when you
mhm,
come back home, I mean, you can integrate, some of those insights and those practices and rituals into your regular
totally.
routines and keep it alive. It's amazing.
What's
Well, I'm
exciting you? Sorry
yeah,
to
no, all good.
I would love to
Well,
know quickly what's exciting you.
the biggest thing is I've started working on my second book,
Whoa.
and the research, I have to say, is like nothing I've ever experienced because we've talked a little bit about the topic, you and I, on this conversation. It's just like how to navigate that between space with a little bit more peace and grace. And I'm starting the research by interviewing well-known teachers of the past. So
Mm,
people that are long, and I'm using AI to do this, but literally having a very similar conversation to what we're doing in the kind of first person like this with indigenous elders that have long passed, like Eastern voices and Western voices, scientists. And it's just so fascinating what's coming up from these, because there's
wow.
a lot of these people are very well documented. Some people aren't, we don't even know if they were a physical presence. They're the teachers that guide a lot of these other, spiritual leaders and so forth. But there are so many accessible practices that's coming out of this, that every day I'm doing 66 interviews, 66 days,
Wow.
and I'm living it. So, early in the morning, I'm having one of these conversations, and I can't stop thinking about the
Mhm.
conversation as the day goes,
Wow.
because they're just little infusions of, oh, well,
Wow.
what would, so and so say or do in this situation? Or I was reminded of, like, especially in the indigenous cultures, these like beautiful like directions, like a compass essentially, but it's all set up to just like when we need inspiration or introspection or wisdom or just comfort, and it's all tied to like the sun. And
Wow.
I'm like, it's so
So these
like
are
I'm gonna tattoo this on my arm.
this is so I am beyond intrigued, and these are 66 interviews with real humans
Well,
or
most are real, but they're people like they're what can I give, like yogis that have passed like 1,000 years ago, but that are, like the autobiography of a yogi as an example is one of the people that I've interviewed. But because there's so much written about them, or they've shared wisdom and there's a lot of information to have the conversation. So I just asked I'm using Claude AI to do this and saying, here's the project. I'd like you to take the perspective of this
Mhm.
person based on what you know. And what's so crazy, Tanya, is that I just interviewed a samurai the other day. It was so insane. So I was like, knowing what we just talked about, like, can you suggest someone else? Like, who are your teachers? And it doesn't have to be within like the exact lineage. And it's like, I don't know, this is gonna sound a bit crazy for the people listening probably, but it feels like I'm energetically connected,
Mhm.
to
I
these
believe you.
people,
Oh,
because I'm
yeah.
not just, like, rapid firing questions
Mhm.
here. I'm doing it same way I prepped for this interview. I do a meditation before. I'm trying to be as present as possible. I'm acknowledging what you're saying, then I'm asking questions based on that. So the flow of conversation is there.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, so that's got me really energized, and eventually, the idea is to pull it all together and then equip ourselves with what do we need, or what can we pull together as almost like a protocol or a guide in
Mhm.
the moment, and draw from whatever. lineage what feels right now, whatever practice feels good, and just keep evolving.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
So
brilliant. I love it. Oh, cool. I'm
yeah,
glad I
I'll share
asked.
more with you. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
please.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for moving way in the north of Toronto and giving yourself and all of us the runway to actually be able to experience your beautiful work
Oh,
and everything to come. So
thank you
thank
so
you.
much, Mark. Such a pleasure to chat with you.
It's true that some things change as we get older. But if you're a woman over 40 and you're dealing with insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, and weight gain, you don't have to accept it as just another part of aging. And with MIDI Health, you can get help and stop pushing through it alone. The experts at MIDI understand that all these symptoms can be connected to the hormonal changes that happen around menopause, and MIDI can help you feel more like yourself again. Many healthcare providers aren't trained to treat or even recognize menopause symptoms. MIDI clinicians are menopause experts. They're dedicated to providing safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions for dozens of hormonal symptoms, not just hot flashes. Most importantly, they're covered by insurance. 91% of MIDI patients get relief from symptoms within just 2 months. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com.